What's up, everybody? This is Lucky Loco with the Lucky Loco Show. Today, I want to bring awareness of a gentleman that had an impact on me in my younger years. I've seen him in Thunderheart, and just the way he said they have to kill us was like a really big statement, a really big movement that I wanted to, you know, just wanted to bring something out of me. So, I really appreciate everybody. I want to dedicate this to John Trudell. Um, he was a part of AIM. AIM is American Indian Movement. It is exactly how it sounds. So let's get into this. John Trudell was identified as a poet, a fighter for the Native American rights, an agitator, and lots of other things. But if you were to ask him which of these descriptions best suits him, he would have to refuse to be pinned down. Actually, I don't consider myself to be any of those things. They're things that I do, but they are parts of me, and they're not total. They are not the total. Indeed, Trudell was a complex sum of all that he saw, endured, and accomplished in his 69 years, a time in which he experienced more than people might in several lifetimes. John Trudell did not set out to be a poet. He was studied poetry in school, or he never studied poetry in school. He took on the road primarily through a series of detours, and his poetic and political sensibilities were forged by the remarkable and some horrifying circumstances of his life. And you'll see why he made such an impact too, and why it was such a tragedy for John Trudell. I mean, he's definitely a hero to me. John Trudell was born February 15th, 1946, in Omaha, Nebraska. He grew up and around nearby the Santee Sioux Reservation. His father was a Santee. His mother had tribal roots that were in Mexico. Trudell became acquainted with the hardship at an early age. His mother died when he was 6 and watched his father struggle to feed and clothe a large family. This experience left Trudell with a deep contempt of American work ethic compounded by the racial, economic injustice which surrounded him. And this I can contest to. It's hard to find a job, and in the 90s, it was really bad. People would ask really racial and stupid questions that they would probably get sued for now, or even fired for. I mean, just putting up with a lot of stuff. John Trudell and the American Indian movement fought for a lot of rights for Native Americans, and he definitely put the sacrifice into his work for all of us, not just us as a nation, us as a human beings, as one person would do. Man, you couldn't ask for much more than somebody to stand up to the injustice of Native Americans that were in that don't have that foundation and need to get out of that mindset of being scared of leaving the reservation. Okay. In 1963, like so many young people with limited economic opportunities, Trudell found himself in the military. Trudell saw active Navy duty in the coastal waters of Vietnam on a ship doing search and rescue missions for downed pilots. What combat he saw was from a distance, but Trudell's heritage sensitized him to the racism he saw during the war, whether by Americans towards Asians or the U.S. military towards his own military troops. Trudell left the Navy after 4 years. A resume he put together as a press kit and a few years ago contains the following listings. From 1967 to 1969, jobs, school, disillusionment. Sorry. Among the illusions Trudell quickly abandoned was that military service was a way of buying into the American dream. He then had a series of unsatisfying educational experiences. I was in a holding pattern, he said, until 1969, which he was in a sense of indigenous roots and connections that galvanized by the Indian of all tribes, occupations of Alcatraz Island. That event, for which Trudell acted as a national spokesman for the first time in his plight of American as a Native American, was brought into the mainstream American consciousness, and along with the recognition of the medal came of that of the attention of the U.S. government, particularly that of the FBI. The occupation of Alcatraz Island and eventually wound down, ended in 1971, but something more lasting and poised and replaced it, the American Indian Movement, of which Trudell served the national chairman from 1973 to 1979. The government response to AIM was swift, and Trudell bluntly states, they waged war against us. They hunted us down. They killed, jailed, destroyed by any means necessary. They saw that of a magical thing that happened with Alcatraz. And all of a sudden, with the spirits popping up and gaining momentum throughout the AIM, and this is why the spirit hunters, those who hunt free, thought came after us. A 17,000-page FBI file bearing Trudell's name remains as a testament of this year under government scrutiny. In 1979, that war took a terrible personal toll on John Trudell, and a form of unspeakable tragedy changed his life forever. A demonstration in the front of the J. Edgar Hoover Building, the headquarters in FBI in Washington, D.C. Trudell explained his motives for the flag burning in the military, in which he said, if a flag has been desecrated, the only way to properly dispose of it is to burn it. They had defined the desecration of the flag as it is, drops on the earth. I can say injustice and racism and classism as your whole way of life desecrates. Whatever you say this thing's supposed to mean. About a 12-hour after the flag incident, in which the early morning of the February 12, 1979, a fire of a suspicious origin burned down Trudell's home in the Shoshone Paiute Reservation in Nevada, killing Trudell's wife, Tina, and their 3 children, and Tina's mother. Not surprisingly, the FBI declined to investigate the blaze. It was officially ruled an accident, but Trudell flatly stated it was murder, and they murdered an act of war. So, it's just this kind of stuff that's just it's crazy, heartbreaking. This is what really moved me, seeing the documentary of this man. So, as my uncle being part of AIM, and a lot of stuff goes on, man. Devastated by which tragedy, Trudell withdrew from the world for a time, and it was during this period of grief of exile that Trudell discovered his poetic gift. It was looking for something to hang on to keep me connected to the reality that I started writing. I did not write poetry prior to that. Tina was the writer. She wrote poetry, and for almost 6 months after the fire, when I was looking for help, I was looking to cut any spiritual deal. I was pissed off at God, at the Great Spirit, at all of them, because it was a betrayal to me. And then the lines came, and the lines of bombs of my explosion, my tears, they were my everything. So, it takes, I don't know, man, having your whole family gone like that definitely has to run a toll on your whole mind state, man. So, what began as a form of therapy turned into much more. The words poured to Trudell's, and he began to incorporate his poetry into his speaking engagement. In 1982, he published a book of poems, Living in Reality, but he was searching for a new mode of presentation, and soon he became inspired, in part by someone who has become his close friend, Jackson Brown. In 1979, I met Jackson. He allowed me to roam around in his world. So I was around recording studios and musicians, and I've always liked rock and roll anyways. I considered it to be a period of osmosis. By 82, I had decided that I wanted to try to record the poetry with music, but I didn't know where it was going to work with contemporary musicians. So I began putting the poetry into the oldest musical form, for us. This meant the drum, the chants. We ended up recording the tape called Tribal Voice at Jackson Studio, and that was recorded. I wanted to then mix the spoken word with the latest musical forms of synthesizers, electric guitars, drum machines. I stayed on hold for the 1 or 2 years because it was very hard for me to find someone who would work with me on the music. To me, it was important for me to remain spoken to the spoken word. I wanted to mix those two identities of music and poetry. I wanted the two identities to be distinct yet together. So I haven't checked out his poetry. I definitely something else I got to do. But like I said, I do honor this man. What caught my attention, like I said, was in Thunderheart, and he's just to me, like I said, a great hero to us Native Americans. Then I met Jesse Ed Davis on May Day, 1985. Jesse Ed Davis himself, a Kiowa from Oklahoma, was something of a musical legend, having recorded the tour with the likes of the Jackson Browne, Bob Dylan, all the former Beatles, and countless others. His innate understanding of the blues, of the rock and roll, turned into what just Trudell had been looking for. He remembered for the first time meeting fondly, he told me his name, and the very next thing he said to me was, "I can make music for your words." Together, Trudell Davis started gigging and recording as the Graffiti Band, and the partnership produced the first album titled AKA Graffiti Man in 1986. It was released on Trudell's own Peach Company label in a cassette-only format and sold through the mail order and the band shows. Even with the limited discretion, the album attracted considerable attention and critical praise by including supporters like Bob Dylan. In an interview, Rolling Stones, Dylan called AKA Graffiti Man the best album of 1986, and the album played over the PA system during the intermissions of his 1987 tour among Trudell's other fans of Christofferson, who wrote the song Johnny Lobo in a tribute to his remarkable life. Trudell and Jesse Ed recorded their second album together, Heart Jump Bouquet. Following Davis' untimely death in 1988, Trudell began to collaborate with Mark Shark, who had been the rhythm and guitars in the Graffiti Band. With Shark as a co-writer and Trudell as a Graffiti Band recorded a third album, Fables and Other Realities, a second in the Tribal Voice series titled. But this isn't El Salvador and has been released in 1987. The band toured in 1988 and operated for the Australian rock band Midnight Oil. In 1992, Recordist released the AKA Graffiti Man in an international audience for the first time. So he's done a lot, man. You know, for a man coming from the dirt poor reservation, dealing with a lot of injustice in that time era, man. You know, if you ever get a chance, check out that book, Where the White Men Fear to Tread by Russell Means. It's a great book. Same with Dennis Banks. Dennis Banks also has an awesome story of what they were enduring at that time. And then what my grandparents told me about that time era. And my parents. And then the times I've endured. You know, it was nothing like what Trudell went through, or Russell Means. They fought, so the generations don't have to go through it. So you might see other generations where you make fun of, like, of not understanding the change of times, because it's happening, like, you know. So, and the change of times for Trudell to do that for us is definitely, you know, it's it's beautiful, man, you know. And well, let's get back into it. The release gathered the work from Trudell's albums, except for the first Tribal Voice recordings covering a period from 1985 to 1991. The original recordings were remixed, overdubs added, included guest vocals by Brown and Christofferson. but the essence of the work remained intact, particularly in the Syrian guitar work of Jesse Ed Davis. This work represents a border of spectrum of Trudell's concern, from the most global to the most personal, to his keen poetic eye, an ear touch of Persian Gulf War and bombs over Baghdad, in which he refers to George Bush as Queen George. The line was originally King George War, but he explained that is not what's going on. He's trying to prove his machismo. Another famous American subject is a sympathetic treatment in the baby boom Che, Elvis Presley, who, as the song title suggests, Trudell considers a cultural revolutionary. Yeah, he laughs. Elvis liberated a lot of white people from Lawrence Welk. The album and other tracks covered by the vast range of poets' social and personal concerns. Incisive song poems contains images of decaying American dream as Graffiti Man. But the love and remembrance of Trudell's wife, Tina Smiled. The album is infused throughout the Trudell's deep belief in human spirit and the spirit's earth itself. A time of aka Graffiti Man's release and Trudell's visibility to increasing of the media as well, he was interviewed at a length of Michael Apt film. Incident at Oglala, a documentary about the Native American prisoner of conscience Leonard Peltier and the American Indian movement. He also featured a role in the Tribeca Films released Thunderheart, starring Phil Kilmer and Sam Shepard, also directed by Apt, released in 1992. So that's another one, is Leonard Peltier. So Leonard Peltier has never been proven that he committed those crimes, and all the timelines. If you ever read into his documents and everything, man, I really pray that if Trump gets back into office, that he keeps his word, that he does give Leonard Peltier his clemency. He needs to come home. He's done way too much time for crimes he didn't commit. And if you see, man, I don't know. It's definitely, I'll do something on Leonard Peltier next, man. Trudell went on to release several more records. In 1994, Johnny Damas and Me. 1999, Blue Indians. 2001, Descendant, Now Ancestor. 2001, Bone Days, produced by the actress Angelina Jolie. What? 2003, The Collection. 2005, Live at FIP. 2007, Madness and the Maroons, double album. 2010, Crazier Than Hell. I gotta check these ones out. 2014, Through the Dust featuring K West. 2015, Wazzy's Dream featuring Bad Dog, Quilt Man, Mark Shark, Billy Watts, and Ricky Eckenstein. Once Trudell was asked about the events surrounding the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' discovery of America, he replied, Columbus was lost. He didn't have any idea what planet he was on. He didn't have a clue where he was at. And I think most of the descendants of Columbus, they're lost too. They don't know where their lives are going. There are ways to live and ways to exist. We're here so we can be living rather than just existing. That's what Alcatraz and the aim were all about. We call it sovereignty, honor, and treaties, but all it really has to do is with life. As an artist, activist, human being, John demands to live. So, yeah, man, he's definitely an icon in the community. Really appreciate this man. I appreciate everybody that's in that era that doesn't have a name like he does. But there's a lot of natives that passed away, that were murdered by the FBI in this fight for the American Indian movement. There's a lot of people that stuck up for the Native Americans. That's the Godfather actor. You know, he stuck up for the natives. He didn't accept an award. And at that time, it was so racist, so downright gone. And for him to do that is just amazing. You know, there's a lot of people that are beside us, and like I said, I'm not here to cause division or even hate. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate nobody because of their color or their backgrounds. I'm here just to bring awareness. That's all I want. I don't want anybody to feel that any kind of guilt or any kind of hatred towards me for talking like this either. What others say about John Trudell. The triumph of John Trudell is that he's been able to bring the strength and brilliant activists into arena of arts and tender, intact, but still on fire. Buffy Sainte Marie interview. More than any man, I know John Trudell, life and expression on his beliefs. Most of us muddle through the day with our ideals in tow, but John's politics, art, and way of perfectly reflects his passion and energy for the Native American cause. He was an inspiration for me to making the documentary film Incident of the Oglala about Leonard Peltier's fight for justice, so much so that I cast him as a charismatic Indian leader in Thunderheart, a movie in which he deals with an oppression of contemporary Native American. There isn't any untruthful moment of his performance, and yeah, this is the one that stuck out right here too. Sometimes they have to kill us, he sold me, because they cannot break our spirits. John is one of the rare unbreakable spirits, Michael App director. A former AIM leader who suffered tragically in his commitment to justice for his people, Trudell. Just a few appearances changes the film Thunderheart with authenticity and passion. That was badass, and I definitely appreciate that movie. That movie was something else, man. Probably the most charismatic speaker I've ever heard. AKA Graffiti Man is the best album of 1986. Only people like Lou Reed and John Doe can dream about doing work like this. Bob Dylan. That is pimp. John Trudell's Crazy Long Wolf, poet, prophet, preacher, warrior full of pain and laughter and spilling out a vision of truth and love, and after the unique, of somewhat desperate in the views of the wild American. He was in reality check, no paranoid. He was aware of his enemies, a formidable predator with no respect for any form of life. Justice is a fire that burns inside him. His spirit cries for it. It makes him dangerous. Chris Christopher. The passing of John Trudell becomes such sad news. I'd known John over since his work with the guitar player friend Jesse Ed Davis. Their group, also known as the Graffiti Man, his poetry, the sound of his voice was so powerful. I knew his activism as the spokesperson for the United Indians of all tribes takeover of the Alcatraz and his leadership. In the American Indian movement, John and I worked together several times, and for the years of each time, I grew to admire him more. And his acting in his film is terrific. His music was outstanding. His prose and poetry were beautiful, and more than anything, he was a solid stand-up guy. I cherished his friendship, and I miss him deeply. Robbie Robinson. I am so sorry to mark the passing of my friend John Trudell, who was the most committed Native American activist in the environment, as well as brilliant word poet. My thoughts are with the family tonight. Rest in peace, dear friend Bonnie Rat. On Jim's brother, another great artist passed. Trudell was a major shamanic Native American singer, songwriter, whom I had the honor to give Native American awards to. He is in the happy hunting ground. Blessing, John Dismore. Okay, so when you get to heaven, we call it the happy hunting grounds, the quiet happy hunting grounds. A horse will meet you at the river to cross you over to bring you across over to your family, to your ancestors, the people you love, the people you missed. You know, I appreciate this man, and I appreciate everything that AIM has done, and they still continue to do. AIM is not gone. They're still full of life. They're still striving. They're still fighting for us. You know, I appreciate the sacrifices that our ancestors did for us to be here. And I just want to give a big thanks to everybody for listening to this whole spill, because to me it's personal, and I appreciate you guys for tapping in. And you guys have a happy Thanksgiving. Stay blessed, stay true, and carry yourself in the right way. For one thing, I just want to say rest in peace, John Trudell. I appreciate everything that you've done, Russell Means and Dennis Banks, and all the other people that has passed away fighting for our rights. I just want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll do more. I'll do one on Leonard Peltier here in a couple days. Just give me some time. I was at the restaurant today. First Native American restaurant, man. A&B Native American cuisine. This is Lucky Loco. I appreciate you guys, man. I love you.